let me show you the United Kingdom, which at midnight UK time brought in a new law called the Rule of Six. It sounds biblical, the Rule of Six. There are 10 commandments, and this is the Rule of Six. You can only hang out in groups of 6. See, the virus can tell if there's 7 people in a room, and that's when the virus attacks. But if there's only 6 of you, then the virus knows you're okay. It's no science. And if I'm not mistaken, this Rule of Six has been spoken about in the UK media for about a week or two. But the actual 9-page legislation was only, it's not even legislation. Legislation implies that it was debated in Parliament. This is some regulation just issued by decree. And if I'm not mistaken, it was published 15 minutes before midnight. So this Rule of Six became law at midnight, and the public was only shown, can you find my link to that? I haven't gone through it, so it's 9, so if the Rule of Six, you'd say, why is there 9 pages to explain this Rule of Six? Well, because just think about it for a few moments, and you can imagine all the questions that arise. What if my family has more than 6 people? How many families can comprise that 6? What if I bump into other people on the street? Does that make 6? If I'm at the park and there's other people there, are we 6? What if I'm in a store? What if I'm in the doctor's office? I mean, just, it's so stupid and so made up. If you think I'm kidding, I'm going to do 2 things. I want to take you through this Rule of Six regulation. But I want to show you this TV. This is a helpful video that one of the British broadcasters put together to explain it. So you're thinking, Rule of Six, okay, what are the rules? Well, it depends. Here, take a listen.
Social gatherings are restricted by a Rule of Six in every part of the UK, but it's slightly different in each nation. In England, no more than 6 people of any age can meet socially. It applies everywhere, indoors and outdoors, including pubs, parks and private homes. Exceptions include organised team sports, weddings and funerals. Scotland has the same limit of 6 people indoors and out, but children under 12 don't count and places of worship are exempt. Also, no more than 2 households can meet, even if the number stays below 6. In Wales, the Rule of Six applies to indoor gatherings only, and all 6 people must come from the same extended group of 4 households. As in Scotland, children under 12 don't count. Outside, there's no change, and up to 30 people can meet. And in Northern Ireland, 6 people of any age is the maximum indoors, and they must be from no more than 2 households. Outside, no gathering should be larger than 15 people.
Were you taking notes there? I need like a whole chart. So the United Kingdom, that's England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. They call them nations. So, boy, I'm confused already. So in some of the parts of the UK, it applies to kids. In others, it doesn't. In some parts of the UK, it applies outdoors. In other parts, it doesn't. In some parts, it applies in churches. In other parts, it doesn't. In some parts, it applies, there's just so many, to team sports. If those team sports are indoors or outdoors? Well, do you think a doctor or an epidemiologist came up with any of this? Do you think the virus says, if you're 12 but not 11, or if you're 12 but not 13 years old, or if you're with 2 families or 3, like, just, do you see what I mean? Are you more, like, I was writing down as fast as I could, and I'm confused there. And the UK is not a huge place geographically. And we had 4 complex sets of rules there. Here, why don't you throw that regulation on the screen here? I'm a former lawyer. And I'm used to reading legislation and regulations, but I can assure you this is extremely dense. So imagine giving 65 million people this and say, just do this. So just go up for a second, just go a little bit slower. It's called public health, statutory instrument, regulations made by the Secretary of State, laid before Parliament under Action 45R of the Public Health Control of Disease Act for approval by resolution. So this was not a law. This is a regulation. And what's the difference? A law is debated. So this was submitted last night. This was published last night at 11:45. And as you can see, it came into effect at 12:01 a.m. this morning. But it will not be laid before Parliament until 10:30 a.m. I don't know what laid before Parliament means. Maybe they have the right to approve or disapprove it. These regulations are made in response to the serious and imminent threat to public health which is posed by the incidence and spread of severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, SARS-CoV-2 in England. The Secretary of State considers that the restrictions and requirements imposed by the health protection as amended in these regulations are proportionate to what they seek to achieve, which is a public health response to that threat. In accordance with Section 45R of the Act, the Secretary of State is the opinion that by reason of urgency it is necessary to make this instrument without a draft, having been laid before and approved by a resolution of each House of Parliament. So this was not even shown to MPs or House of Lords, that's what they call their Senate there. Because it was so urgent, they couldn't wait 10 more hours. You see what if you scroll right to the top again, I don't understand the lawmaking process in the British Parliament, but I understand enough. So this came into force. So this was written on the 13th, came into force 1 minute after midnight this morning, but I think laid before Parliament means that it wasn't shown to MPs or the House of Lords till 10 and a half hours later, because people, this pandemic, which has been going on since March, we just couldn't wait 10 and a half hours to actually show lawmakers this kooky rule of 6. Okay, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. Citation, it can be called the health protection. Okay, keep going, keep going. Amendments. Okay, so they're amending previous regulations. So they're substituting regulation 4 or whatever, who cares? And then after paragraph 4 inserts regulation 5.1 insofar as it relates to gatherings in private dwellings, and regulation 5ZA do not apply in relation to those areas which form the protected area under this regulation, that regulation. This. Now, you're a normal human. Do you understand a word of this? For paragraphs 1 and 2, substitute during the emergency period, no person may participate in a gathering which consists of more than 6 people unless all the people in the gathering are from the same household or are members of 2 households which are linked households in relation. What does that mean, linked? The gathering is one to which paragraph 2 or 2A applies, and the person concerned participates in the gathering alone or as a member of a qualifying group. So we got a linked household, and we've got a qualifying group, and we've got a gathering. Do you know the difference? If not, get ready to go to jail, mates. This paragraph applies to a gathering if it takes place on or at premises other than a private dwelling, which are operated by a business, a charitable, benevolent, or philanthropic institution, or a public body, or part of premises used for the operation of a business, charitable, blah, 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 blah. Do you understand any of this? I do not think you do. I do not think most MPs and members of the House of Lords. Qualifying group, what's that? In relation to a gathering means a group of persons who are participating in that gathering, in which consists of no more than 6 persons, or consists of only persons who are members of the same household, or who are members of 2 households which are linked. What does that mean? A person participates in a gathering as a member of a qualifying group. What are they talking about? Only if they are part of a qualifying group, and whilst participating in the gathering, they do not become a member of any other group of persons participating in the gathering, whether or not that group is a qualifying group, or otherwise mingle. Hey guys, the word mingle now has grave force. If you mingle with any person who is participating in the gathering but is not a member of the qualifying group, and then they just sort of end that sentence there, what happens then? And then just more legalese. Just a bunch of junk law. So go back up a bit, going a little fast for me there. The gathering is a significant event. Like, what? Okay, I'm looking at E there. The gathering is of a support group. The gathering consists of no more than 30 persons for the solemnization of a marriage, formation of a civil partnership, or gathering is significant. So, okay, this is an exception for a wedding, right? Okay, scroll down a bit. The gathering is a wedding reception following the formation of a civil partnership, consists of no more than 30 persons, takes place in premises other than a private dwelling. The gathering organizer complies with paragraph 5G. You need a chart, a map. What's 5G? What's 4ZA or whatever? Do you understand this? Would you have a wedding? You would need a lawyer to lawyer your wedding. J, the gathering is a sports gathering and the person concerned is taking part in that gathering. The gathering takes place in criminal justice accommodation. So if you're in jail, is that what's criminal justice accommodation? Are you trying to say jail? The gathering takes place outdoors, whether or not in public outdoor space. It is for the purpose of relevant outdoor activity. What's a relevant outdoor activity? Is there an irrelevant outdoor activity? And the gathering organizer complies with paragraph 5G, or the person concerned is attending a person giving birth. Oh, thank God. So we've got an exemption for that. In paragraph 4A for 30 substitute 6, okay, they're clamping down on 30 people again. I'm exhausted. We're only on the 4th page. After paragraph 5, insert, for the purposes of paragraph 3E, support group means a group which is organized by a business, a charitable, benevolent, or philanthropic institution, or a public body to provide mutual aid, therapy, or any other form of support for victims of crime, people recovering from addictions, new parents, those with or caring for persons with any long-term illness, those facing issues related to their sexuality or identity, including those living as lesbian, gay, bisexual. So if you're gay and you're, quote, facing issues, what does that mean? You're exempt from the law. So we're going through the exemptions here. If you're victims of crime, if you're recovering from addiction, if you're new parents, if you have a long-term care issue, or if you're gay and, quote, facing issues. If you're gay and you're facing issues, you're exempt from this law, just so you know. For the purpose of 3G, significant event gathering. What's a significant event gathering? To mark or celebrate a significant milestone in a person's life, according to their religion or belief, such as events to celebrate a rite of passage or entry into a particular faith, other than a birthday or coming of age. Okay, so a coming of age is exempt, but not a birthday. Are you following this? So a significant event gathering is a coming of age, but not a birthday. It is a significant milestone in your life, but not a birthday. You turned 100 years old. Sorry, that's not a significant milestone. To mark a person's death or celebrate their life following their death, such as a funeral. Okay, thank you for that. Can you believe this is actually a law? For the purposes of paragraph 3, a sports gathering is a gathering which is organized for the purposes of allowing persons who are not elite sports persons to take part in any sport or other fitness-related activity, and which is organized, which takes place on relevant premises or outdoors, and the manager complies with paragraph 5G. Do you understand 5E, 5G, 5F for the purposes of 3.1 relevant outdoor activity means a physical activity which is carried on outdoors and for which a license, hey, where's your soccer license, mate? Mate, where's your license? You're playing frisbee, mate. Where's your license? For which a license, permit, or certificate issued by a public body other than a license permitting a person to drive a motor vehicle? What are you talking about? Must be held by the gathering organizer, any person taking part in the activity. What are you talking? Are you following? This is the rule of 6 law. Are you following any of this? 5G, the gathering organizer or manager, as the case may be, complies with this paragraph if, in relation to the relevant gathering, they have carried out a risk assessment which would satisfy the requirements of Regulation 3 of the Management of Health and Safety at Work Regulation 1999A, whether or not the gathering organizer or manager is subject to those regulations. So if you have any gathering, your gathering organizer must carry out a risk assessment according to some old law, whether or not you're subject to that law, and you have to take all reasonable measures to limit the risk of transmission of the virus, taking into account the risk assessment carried out. Do you think any person in the United Kingdom, A, understands this, or B, will do this? This is simply a way of saying, lawyers, here's a bunch of free work, and police, arrest anyone you like. Oh, explanatory note. Thank you. Priti Patel. I like Priti Patel, but it's hard to like her when this garbage comes from her office. Explanatory note. This note is not part of the regulations. These regulations amend the health protection regulations so that people may not participate in social gatherings in any place in groups of more than 6. Unless they are members of the same household. 2 linked households or exceptions apply. This change applies in England, but in areas covered by the health protections, coronavirus restrictions, Blackburn with Darwin and Bradford regulations, the health protection Leicester, the health protection north of England, and Bolton, the change only applies in relation to social gatherings which take place otherwise than in private dwelling. Oh, you really have explained things in the explanatory note. It's crystal clear now. Oh, and that last line, no impact assessment has been carried out for these regulations. You don't say. You mean no actual humans were asked, what will be the impact on your life, on your business, on your health, if this unreadable, if you tell me you understand that law, I'm sorry, I'm going to call you a liar. Do you think Priti Patel understands that law? Do you think Boris Johnson understands it? And much more to the point, do you think the police officers who will enforce it understand it? That's an excerpt from my daily TV show that I do live at 12 noon Eastern Time. We talk about the news of the day, we play interesting viral videos, and most importantly, I take your questions that you chat to me through YouTube Super Chat. I think that's the funnest part of it. So tune in every weekday at 12 noon Eastern Time, only here at rebelnews.com.